Welcome to the MEF2C cast, a podcast dedicated to educating, supporting, and building community around MEF2C haploinsufficiency syndrome.
The MEF2 Cast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Views expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily of the podcast or its sponsors. This is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare professional for medical concerns.
All right, welcome to the MEF2C cast. We are here with Susan Simmons, whose son Andrew, how old is Andrew?
He is 25.
He's 25 and he has autism and MCHS. So, can you start by just telling us a little bit about your family, as much or as little as you want? Do you have any other kids? What jobs do you and your husband have? Any hobbies, things like that?
Certainly. My husband and I, Sean, have been married for 27 years this year. We have 3 boys. Andrew is our oldest. Daniel is 21. Alex is 15. I do medical billing part-time from home, and my husband and I are starting a dog grooming and bakery business later this year.
That's super cool.
Do you have any hobbies or anything you enjoy as a family?
We love to go visit national parks.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of traveling.
Mhm.
Taken cruises together. We've done road trips across the country, been to Florida, just hanging out by the ocean. So traveling
Sure.
is pretty important to our family.
Gotcha. Can you tell us, just kind of a general overview, a little bit about Andrew's life and what kind of led you to suspect he was neurodivergent?
Sure. We started to know that Andrew wasn't developing appropriately at around 6 months of age. We had him tested for Fragile X around that time, and obviously he didn't have that.
Mhm.
We started in early intervention right around the 6-month age mark, and he was getting all kinds of therapy, OT, PT, speech developmental therapy, PT. We had him he was diagnosed at 2 with autism, and around that time he started having febrile seizures also. But no one really knew that there was anything else going on. He never spoke, didn't have the typical, or not typical, but some people, their children develop normally until about the age of 2 and then it disappears.
Mhm.
That was never the case for Andrew. He had developmental disabilities from the very beginning.
Yep.
He was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy because he had a lot of varying muscle tone differences.
Mhm.
It wasn't until he was about 16 that we actually got the MEF2C diagnosis, which explained all of the other diagnoses that he had received.
That makes sense.
So, two quick questions for you. I'm sorry to interrupt. So, the cerebral palsy, would that diagnosis was just based symptomatically, like just based on the muscle tone?
Correct.
He was. So, does he also have cerebral palsy, or that was incorrect diagnosis?
It depends on which doctor you ask,
Okay.
because there's so little known at this point about
Yes.
MEF2C.
Right.
But in his chart, he still has all of these diagnoses.
Mhm.
He still has autism, he still has epilepsy, he still has CP, but the MEF2C research that we have done explains a lot of those other diagnoses,
Right.
sort of the umbrella that covers all of the other.
Yes. Mhm.
So as time goes on, I think as the research improves,
Mhm.
re-diagnosed,
Right.
but at this point in all of his medical records, he still has all of the other diagnoses in addition to the MEF2C.
Yeah, that's something we're running into, I've ran into personally in my research and talking to the other families with autism and MEF2C. Like, it's very confusing whether MEF2C is a type of autism, is within the autism, and I have a background in biology, so I kind of think of this in terms of taxonomy, like the way they organize classifying
Sure.
uh, organisms. But So that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast. So we're hoping we can talk to some experts and get some clarification on the relationship between autism and F2C. My other question was, so you had him genetically tested. Did he get tested and receive a different genetic diagnosis, and then later got retested for the MEF2C, or was the MEF2C his first diagnosis?
The MEF2C was his first diagnosis. We're
Gotcha.
looking at broad diagnoses
Mm,
because when he was tested for Fragile X, that was in 20 no, it was in about 2000, 2001. So there's
gotcha.
been a lot of advances done
Yes.
then. And so they just wanted to see what else might light up when
Right. Right.
they ran his genes again.
Mm,
So that's how we found out about the diagnosis.
mm. I don't think MEF2C was discovered until like 2012. I want to say maybe 2010, somewhere in there. So that totally makes sense. And that's why we asked, because we've talked to a couple other people who have a child who had a different genetic diagnosis, and then they retested again more recently and were given the MEF2C diagnosis.
Yes.
How did the diagnosis affect you, affect Andrew, affect your family?
That's a really good question.
Did it?
Andrew was relieved to know that there was one explanation for it.
Right.
I think it was just sort of, okay, this all makes sense now.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, my reaction was the same, but there was also
Hmm.
relief that I hadn't done something wrong when I
Yes.
was pregnant. Were there environmental factors? Did I eat the wrong thing? Did I take the wrong medicine? Because I had always carried that guilt of what if I had caused this?
Hmm.
There was an explanation that didn't involve something that I had done. So there was a sense of relief.
Yeah.
I think as far as our family as a whole is concerned, it was just informational because our other two boys are younger. And so when we found out, they were like, okay. I mean, it didn't really
Yes.
change anything regarding how we were helping Andrew, the treatments he was getting. But I think for Sean and I, it was helpful to hear that it was something that didn't have a cause that involved either of us.
Hmm.
They didn't know a lot about it when he was first diagnosed.
Hmm.
So when I did research online, I was stunned to find that the little they knew was spot on. It was exactly what we were experiencing, even down to like a birthmark right around his collarbones where they meet. Everybody thinks he had a trach, but he didn't. He was just born with this patch of skin that looks different. And it's like, oh my goodness. Yes. There's a reason for that. It wasn't just, and it was confirmation that this actually was the right diagnosis. And everything I read was just
Yeah.
like, yes, 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 yes.
Checked all
And
those boxes.
yes. And it was nice to just have a name for it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, to be able to explain it. I mean, I experienced all of those same emotions that you did, and I experienced them for such a short amount of time, and, like, that even came with, like, the immense amount of relief after that, so I can't even imagine how you were feeling as well.
It was just like, it makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not it was just because they just kept adding diagnoses without anyone ever really knowing why. And so,
Uh,
yes, there is a name for this. And it also was helpful to find out that he wasn't the only one.
right.
Yeah.
There were other people who
Yeah.
were experiencing this. And although every child is different, there are some commonalities that you can relate to and other people understand.
Hmm. Yeah. When we went to Boston, it was, I don't even know the right word to describe it, but to walk in a room full of kids with MEF2C, and just like their general, sort of
Demeanor.
demeanor, yeah, the sounds they make, just sort of the way they carry themselves. It almost felt like a family reunion, but we'd never met any of them. You know what I mean? It was really joyful to be in a room with all these kids that were like Leo. So I can see how feeling alone for so long, and then finding this community would be really helpful.
Yes.
Speaking of community, like, what kind of community did you find initially? Did you just meet, like, individual families, or was there a Facebook group at that point, or,
It
like, how
it
did
was
that.
the it was the Facebook group that I found. We actually have not met another family in person who has a child with a similar diagnosis. So, we couldn't make it to Boston, but there have been similar situations that Andrew has been in where there are individuals like him,
Mm,
and you get together and there's this relief that you don't have to they can just be themselves. You can be yourself and know that everybody there gets it, and you
Yeah.
don't
yes.
do anything, and you don't have to apologize for anything,
Right.
Mhm.
have to feel out of place. It is like coming home.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very important, I think, for families to find that community.
Yeah. Leo is, he's 2.5. He's the size of a 4-year old, but he still can't walk. So you almost find yourself like people that ask me about my kid that have never even met him. I almost find myself feeling like I want to explain this because they see like a preschooler who can't walk or talk yet. And I want to explain to him like first of all he's not as old as he looks, and second of all he has this thing. So it's really nice to be able to just let them be who they are. Um what was Andrew like as a young child?
Good question. So there are 2 there is like a watershed moment in Andrew's life. So there's before that watershed moment and after.
Sure. Yeah.
As up until he was 13, we assumed he had the mentality of a 1 or 2-year-old.
Right.
Would stim on toys that lit up, that played music, that would spin. He would basically do nothing but watch videos, Sesame Street videos, and just over and over and over again. And his demeanor showed that he was enjoying those things. We had a very narrow set of expectations for him in life because of what we could see and because we didn't know anything else. I think he sat up at, so I'm going to say a year. He was able to
Mhm.
sit himself, walk. It's been such a long time. I don't remember it. I would say it was closer to 2, and that was unsteady even then.
Mhm.
Um, he Sorry, I'm thinking.
No,
Take your
take your
time.
time.
He is non-speaking to this day.
Mhm.
So we really had no form of communication for him at that time. His fine motor skills were very limited and
Mhm.
still are limited. He doesn't have a pincer grasp. He has trouble, like he can't feed himself with a fork or spoon independently. He still drinks out of a cup with a straw because his fine motor skills are just not refined enough to be able to hold a cup, drink from it, and set it down.
Sure.
So again, he didn't, he was doing all of the therapies. He was in school in a self contained classroom, um, just doing his thing, kind of.
Was he a pretty happy kid?
We thought so. There were times that he would have outbursts. He would just start screaming or crying really loud. He would bang incessantly on things,
Mhm.
incessantly, to the point where we started him on a medicine because we were afraid he was going to put his hand through a window. And there was concern that he would bleed out before we could get to him if we didn't know. There would just be times where he would become really upset and we didn't understand why. That was one of the hardest things that we dealt with then because you don't know what's wrong. You don't know if they're sick. You don't know if they're hurt. You don't know if they're unhappy. You don't know if they don't feel good, if they're hungry, if it could be anything. And it was a
Yep.
matter of trying to go down the list and eliminate what
Yep.
we thought was wrong. And that was really hard. We knew it was hard for him. It was hard for us. And so the frustration on our part was there because we didn't know. He would perseverate on things, toys, sprinklers, just whatever caught his eye, he would just perseverate on.
What does perseverate mean?
Perseverate means to get stuck. It means to not be able to pull yourself away from an activity
Mhm.
or only be able to focus on one thing over and over and over again. Some
It's
people,
awesome that there's a word for that now that I didn't know before.
yes,
Super handy.
it's kind of like people who have OCD that can't pull themselves away from something.
Mhm.
You just get stuck in a loop, having the same motion, doing the same thing, talking about the same thing. So he did that a lot. I mean, the same toys over and over and over again. And we would desperately try to find replacements for those toys on
Yeah.
eBay. And they broke because they didn't make them anymore. He watched a ton of Baby Einstein, Baby Mozart, all of those things.
Mm.
His facial expressions showed us that, I mean, he would smile and kind of flap a little bit, and that was happiness. We were really trying to focus on his communication to try and avoid some of the frustration on his part and on our part about what was wrong. We tried PECs for years. He knew that he was supposed to pick up the card, but he would chuck it or um, not hand it to us, or sometimes it was hand over hand to pick up the card. We went to seminars, we did all of it, and we couldn't figure out why he wouldn't pick up either the right card or any card, or why he would throw it, or and it was just like, "This is not working," and we didn't
Mhm.
know why. That's what everybody was talking about, PECs, 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 PECs. Having him do the same thing over and over and over again at school, trying to get him toilet trained, all of those things were ended up in frustration for us. We really didn't know what his life was going to be. We assumed it would just stay on a continuum of where he was at that time. So that's all of the stuff before the watershed moment. When he was 13, and I might get emotional, I still do every time, someone that used to work with Andrew introduced us to someone who did, back then it was called supported typing. Now it's called spelling, it's called RPM. There's a lot of different versions of it. And I thought in my heart of hearts, okay, I don't know why we're doing this. It's not going to work.
Oh,
This is
no.
crazy. So, okay, we go up to Indianapolis. Great. And this woman comes in a room and she has this, like, it's an early computer type, one of those electric typewriter things. And I had been trying at home. And Casey DePriest, the woman who had told us about this, had been having some success with Andrew. But I was like, it's not, no, this is a fluke. This isn't going to work, whatever. So I had very low expectations going in. And this woman said, "Hi, Andrew. What would you like to tell us?" And the first thing he typed was, "I didn't get what I wanted for my birthday." His birthday had been the week before. And I was standing there watching this happen. And his movement was so fluid and so calm and so controlled and intentional. And she said, "Well, what did you want for your birthday?" And he said, "I want to go to a real school." I didn't even know he could
Yeah.
understood what we were saying. I just started sobbing. It's still very emotional for me because
Absolutely.
my child was in there. He understood.
Mhm.
And it was like someone who hears for the first time.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of me looking at Andrew directly, eyeball to eyeball, and I was apologizing to him. I said, "I'm so sorry, Andrew. I didn't know. I didn't know."
Yeah.
And the next thing he typed was, "It's okay, Mom. There's nothing to apologize for. I love you." And it was the first time my son told me that he loved me. And then there's another picture of me sobbing right after that. Um,
I think I've seen that picture.
you probably have. It's and he continued to go on and on and on that day. And we have never everything changed that day. Everything. We started speaking to him instead of about him. He was able to say that he loved chocolate chip cookies and that he wanted to try new foods. He said that he never wanted to watch Sesame Street or Baby Einstein ever again.
I'm sure you felt
Um,
relief with that.
he never wanted to play with baby toys again.
What did he go to after that? So, like, what was his favorite thing after you
Any
immediately stopped with Baby Einstein?
anything. He wanted to learn anything and everything he could. There was nothing off limits. I remember the next day, we went to a restaurant and I was able to ask him what he wanted for lunch, and he was able to food for the very first time, what he wanted to eat, not
Yeah.
what I gave him. I asked him what his favorite color was. I anything,
Oh, you were getting to know your son that you thought
Yes,
you knew
yes,
everything about.
absolutely. And we came home. It was Andrew and I that went. We came home and my husband and I threw away every baby toy. We donated all kinds of stuff. And we have just asked, it's now a conversation with him. Everything is a conversation with him. And in fact, he desperately wants to be invited to contribute to this podcast because he wants people to know what it's like to have MEF2C, and he wants to talk to other parents about what his life was like before and after, and how he would suggest treating other individuals with MEF2C.
So I've got a bunch of things here, but is have you ever read The Autistic Brain by Dr. Temple Grandin?
No, but I have heard her speak
Okay.
several times,
Yeah,
uh, and read some of her books, but not that one.
gotcha. Yeah, I so coincidentally, as it turns out, um my college degree is in zoo science, so I knew her as this incredible animal scientist.
Mm.
She's also this incredible autism advocate, so she's one of my favorite people in the world. But in that book, she talked about several people who were nonverbal and figured out how to spell. But the one that I remember that reminds me a lot of Andrew is this girl was at therapy, and they were like, she had an AAC, and they were
Ah,
just like frustrated, and they like cleared everything off her AAC, and the keyboard was up
yep,
and she was able to type "my teeth hurt," and
yep.
they had no idea she could type. So it seems like, you know, if it brings you any, I don't know what the right word is, but that's a common thing to like, that the first thing they say kind of breaks your heart a little bit. But in that book also she talked about having conversations with some nonverbal people, and it was very taxing for them to go through the process of spelling. So is are you when you talk to Andrew, can you just sit there and have a conversation sort of casually, or is it something that takes a considerable amount of effort for him?
That's a good question. At the beginning, it was literally blood, sweat, and tears. We would
Mhm.
work so hard. We would both be sweating, and I would get frustrated and cry, and I mean, like, it took us a long time to become fluent, if that's the word you want to use.
Mhm.
We did a lot of yes, nos at the beginning until because you can find out a lot of things using just yes and no.
I added that when we spoke a while back, you told me to start with that. I added that onto Leo's AAC, and he hasn't used it yet, but I have used that as, a starting point for us too.
Yes, because you can just continue to ask yes, no questions. There was a lot of that. One of the unfortunate things that happened is when we came back that weekend, we went to school like 2 days later, and the staff at his school didn't believe it was his voice. That started a chain of events that was very difficult for us because here we know our son is highly intelligent and he was not able to use that form of communication at school,
Mhm.
middle school years, and even had individuals say in front of him to him, "I don't believe that that's you." And we it became very stressful. School was hard for him in middle school and has left trauma that he still struggles with.
Mhm.
He is triggered when people don't believe him,
Mhm.
especially when they're being nasty about it. Some people just don't get it, and we call those educational opportunities. But when people are intentionally not looking outside of the box, that is very hard for him, and I can understand why. It's very
Of
frustrating
course.
for me. Once he hit high school, we had a wonderful case manager who took his textbook and threw it in the trash in front of him and said, "I read your IEP. I hear that you want to communicate through typing. Do you want me to do you wanna use PECS? Because they sent the PECS board over from middle school, and he, like, stood up in his wheelchair practically, and she threw it away, and he and I were just she said, "Then you'll type here," and he graduated with a full high school diploma,
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
and I don't like algebra, and he thought he did. He's not a very well, but he did it and loves history, very interested in current events in government, um loves music, loves being out in nature. He has a blog, he's done public speaking. Yeah. His world is very different than what it was before.
So now is he able to have, because we would love to have him on the podcast.
That's what we're getting at.
We're
We
just
didn't wanna
trying to
go.
figure out how, and we can talk about this more off air, but we just wanted to figure out how to best be able to support him, because if talking something that's very strenuous for him, I don't
Oh,
want
yeah, I
to.
forgot you asked that.
Yes. Is
Sorry.
he able to have a casual conversation now for an extended period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Would it be easier to be in person?
I don't know that it would be. What he does need is the questions ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay.
It it's not a fast process,
Mhm.
and he is very, I don't want to say philosophical.
Articulate?
He is very articulate, but he also is very observant. He's very wise for his age. And so he likes to have questions ahead of time so he can think them through, because answering those questions does take a while. Like, it's not a fast process,
Right.
breaks.
Mhm.
So that would be my suggestion, is provide questions ahead of time.
Mhm.
Uh, it might need, if different questions come up, it might be helpful for us to do it like in more than one part so that he can go
Yeah.
back and any questions that come up. No, when I told him I was doing it, he was like, I want to do this.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, good, I'm gonna ask. So
Yeah,
Of course.
we can iron this out later because we don't want to bore our listeners, but we
yes,
1000% want him on.
Yes.
We
yes,
just wanted to make sure it was on his terms. And I can appreciate. Haley will tell you I'm obnoxiously philosophical,
Yep.
and I get hung up in trying to be very precise with my speech. Like if there is some, extremely specific, esoteric word that can be used to describe a specific thing, I'll spend 20 seconds trying to think of it.
mhm,
So I
yeah.
can certainly appreciate that perspective. And I just, Andrew's about my age. I'd just be interested in being his friend. So yeah, we'd love to meet him.
That would be fantastic. That is something he struggles with, finding individuals that understand him and accept him as he is and are able to look past the disability. And that's, it's Andrew finding his voice was a wonderful blessing to us. It does come with negatives. And one of those negatives is wanting desperately to be like everyone else
Mm-hmm.
and being stuck in a body that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so there are hard times
Sure.
that he's had, and I'm not going to go into detail about it because it's not my story to tell if he wants to.
Sure.
He has been through things that are your parents, or are, as parents, are our worst fears. And so he holds a lot of anxiety and trauma. And I think that happens more often than we realize. I think um, these kids and young adults experience things that affect them permanently in negative ways. And as a parent, I'm very protective of that, but I think that I wish I had known that when Andrew was younger.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that and I've been a parent for 2.5 years, so my opinion's probably not worth very much. Typical people go through everybody's childhood has a certain amount of trauma in it, and just necessarily because he was born a different way than someone else doesn't mean that that would have changed that at all. So
I think he would have been able to defend himself, however.
oh, absolutely, I'm not
Circumstances.
trying to
No, I understand.
minimize any of it, but
And again, I'll leave that up to him as to
right,
whether he's comfortable sharing that.
yeah. So do you think you talked about him having random outbursts before he could communicate? I've heard, again, Dr. Grandin talk about, like, if you have an autistic person that suddenly has a random outburst like that, the first few things you need to check are physical discomfort. So do they have heartburn? Do they have indigestion? Does their teeth hurt? Do they
Mm.
have a headache? Something like that. So do you think it was things like that that were responsible for those outbursts, or do you think it was frustration from not being able to communicate, or both?
I think it was both. I remember he was screaming, Andrew was screaming and screaming and screaming one time, and we took him to the pediatrician, and he had double ear infections.
Mm, mm,
That was definitely
course. Yeah.
I know that there were other times that he just was losing it emotionally or intellectually.
Mhm.
and had no other way to express it. He's told
Mhm.
me that.
Mhm.
And behavior is almost always communication, always, because stims are involved.
Mhm.
But I would say with Andrew, 95% of what you would call behavior, and we don't call it behavior anymore. We call it ineffective communication. 90%, 95% of that is needing to say something,
Mhm.
do something. And we've worked really hard on that because, there are appropriate ways to communicate and inappropriate ways to communicate. But when you're relying on someone else to support you while you're trying to communicate, you can't just walk up and do it by yourself. And so
Mhm.
sometimes he needs to get our attention. And since he can't say, "Hey, I need to tell you something," he does resort to what we call ineffective communication. But at some point, you're like, okay, you really need to say something. What is it?
Mhm.
He currently uses a communication board, like a dry erase board with a printed out keyboard on it, but he is soon to receive an iPad, and he has tested software that has a keyboard on it. It's big enough for him because, like I said, his fine motor skills aren't fantastic. And that I think will allow him another degree of normalcy because right now, when he types on the whiteboard, I have to relay the message. When he gets his own communication device, as he says, it's his voice, and that is
Yeah.
important to him. Technology, there weren't even iPads when he was born. So technology is a really good thing. He's very excited about that, and we're hoping that that allows him to initiate communication independently in more appropriate ways.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe you can make his voice like, James Earl Jones or something. Something really.
We're gonna have to ask him what kind of, accent he wants or whatever. Yes.
So, is he still in college?
He has taken a few college courses. It is hard for him to take them in a finite period of time,
Mhm. Mhm.
as if he's not feeling well, if he's having trouble communicating because of an emotional experience, he gets very anxious. He's very driven to get not just an A, but 100% in the class, puts a lot of pressure on himself. And when that doesn't happen, it makes it difficult for him to sleep, to eat, to function. So we're trying to find a good balance, learning without such intense pressure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck right there. And I think when he gets his new device, those opportunities may open up.
That'll
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could see how you if you went from people thinking that you know nothing to people realizing you were in terms of intellect, that you would be really driven to show people exactly how much you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can totally see how he would, develop that way of thinking.
Yes.
What does his sort of daily routine look like now?
It's not ideal, honestly, at this time, is lacking the social interaction that we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
Right now, I am the only one here who can communicate with him fluently.
Mhm.
And so when I am not available, he doesn't have great communication. It's either a yes or no. And one of the other things that is important to know about spelling to communicate is that there is an emotional back and forth between the person supporting him and Andrew himself. And so if those things are off, communication will not be effective. So if he's really stressed or I'm really stressed, it's hard to communicate. And one of the things that I struggle with is we have two younger sons. Our middle one is at college, but our youngest is 15 and does online school. So there is I have a difficult time finding a balance because Andrew could sit and talk all day long. I understand that, but then there are other things that have to happen. And just speaking frankly, my husband and I are paid caregivers for him. And because we don't have another source of income, that is our income right now.
Mhm.
So our business gets up and starts being successful. And he only has a limited budget through the state on a waiver. Right now, we are relying on that budget financially. So to bring in other people to help support us, we don't have enough funds for that right now,
right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that
So
totally makes sense.
It is not ideal. He is not doing the things he wants to do. He's not going the places he wants to go because my husband and I have other things that we need to be doing.
Mm.
Ideally, he would be going places frequently. He would be learning online or in person. He would be interacting socially. So that's again one of those, it's not a negative with finding his voice, but it does change our family's life.
Makes it more complex.
It does make it very complex. So we are looking forward to allowing him to be more independent with communication and interacting with his device, and also being able to have a successful business where other people can come in and support him. Because I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and frankly, I'm his mom, and what 25-year-old wants to hang around their mom all the time? Not many. So yes, his schedule is very thin currently.
Gotcha. Does he have hobbies he likes to do as far as like when he's at home or, when he can get out?
He really likes going different places and learning new things.
Mm.
He actually does twice a week adaptive CrossFit, which
Mm.
is unusual, but it is fantastic for him.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
we have someone here who started this business, and she works with people with disabilities, and he's come a long way in the last 2 years. His balance has improved, his stamina has improved, and he's actually started using his wheelchair less. He uses his wheelchair because he can't walk long distances.
Mhm.
He has been able to go more places because he is physically able to, more so now than before. Let's see, he loves music.
Does he have a specific kind of music that he likes?
It depends. He's really fascinated with Bach and
Hmm.
classical music
Interesting.
because Bach supposedly was very complex when he composed his music. And Andrew is able to pick up on those things. He has excellent hearing. He's downstairs now and can probably hear every word I'm saying.
Is he
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Is
you're fine.
is like he interested in like music theory? Does he like understand that end of things and that's what his interest in music is, or he just enjoys it and is sort of has an intuition as to the that complexity?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Right now, he's told me he's interested in learning how things work.
Mm.
Like, we saw something on TV, and it was this children's author actually that writes books for kids that talk about how, like, electricity works and how, like physics, like a wedge or pliers, and, just, how does the waste management for a city work? Just different kinds of things about how everyday things happen.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that I think that's in some aspects just like a male compulsion too, because like for me and a lot of the guys I know, like the best part of life is just fiddling around with stuff. You know what I mean? Trying to figure things out like that. That it's great to hear about the CrossFit too, because I do strongman competitions and working out's really important to me. So it's great to hear that Leo might be able to integrate that into his life someday because
Yes.
he loves coming out and watching me. He thinks it's hilarious when I just hang on the pull up bars, and anytime I make a loud noise, he loves it. But yeah, that's great. I know Haley's mentioned before he really likes being outside. Andrew does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He has a strong connection with nature. Uh,
Mhm.
is he's very spiritual, and really that's a great way of him connecting,
Mhm.
is through nature. That's why we travel. That's why we go see different places, not just for him, but it's just relaxing for him. And he's always up for going somewhere. Always.
Does he have the fascination with water that a lot of other Meth
He
2C
used
kids have?
to when
Gotcha.
he was younger.
Mhm.
Yes. I think that was, and sometimes I wonder when he was younger if some of those stims were an escape for him. I've never asked him that directly. That's a really good question. He would stand in front of a sprinkler for hours,
Mhm.
sit in a pool forever.
Mhm.
But it probably also was providing a lot of physical feedback too. I mean, he still likes to swim because it gives him a lot of input all at once.
Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I've never thought about that because I know like Leo likes being roughhoused and like really tossed around and swung
Mhm.
around and stuff. And I've read before that that's due to the apraxia, those big sensations let them actually feel where they're at in space. But I hadn't
Absolutely.
considered until just now that the pressure of the water would do the same thing.
Yes. Yes. And that's somewhat. what CrossFit works on is, lifting heavier things makes you feel things.
Mhm.
Standing on a balance board, that is a ton of input that and mental work at the same time that's required. Walking a certain way, pushing, a large box over. There's a lot of proprioceptive
Mhm.
feedback from all of those activities. Plus it's increasing his endurance, increasing his self-confidence. So
Mhm.
um that's something he really enjoys and we've seen a huge benefit from.
Yeah, Haley's mentioned before that you've told her that Andrew got a lot of benefit out of once he understood what different muscle groups were and how they functioned, he was
Yeah.
able to use his body a lot better. Is that something that he got from CrossFit?
Yes, that continues. If you're not sure where your body is in space and you need to use your bicep to pick something up,
Right.
again, he's aware of he knows what his body is doing, even if he can't control it. So we worked on, okay, here is your bicep. Actually,
Mhm.
okay, now we're going to lift this up for you and you can feel that muscle engage.
Mhm.
So it's putting names to things where
Mhm.
body is concerned to give him just a different level of awareness.
Yeah.
His when he was younger, he would get input from a lot of different things, but that seems to have decreased. That need seems to have decreased since he found his voice, and he's able to work through that a little bit.
Mhm.
It seems like there were a lot of other things I wanted to tell you.
That's all right.
It's like come up in my head and then they're gone because 'cause we're talking.
You mentioned earlier that he's very spiritual. Are you guys, you and Sean, spiritual? Is that something he got from you, or is that something that he found on his own?
Probably from us. Church we went to when he was much younger, I actually helped develop a special needs ministry in that church, and
Mhm.
looking back at it now, it was on a very low intellectual level, but all of the kids in there learned a lot. It was the first time they'd heard about God. It was, about Bible stories because we were exposing him to that. And that was one
Mhm.
of the things that I wanted to talk about was if Andrew could tell you one thing, it would be to present and speak to your children at an age appropriate level. Period. The end. He was exposed to nothing but what he calls baby toys, baby shows for years in his life and was able to comprehend so much more than that. And if we had only known what we would have done differently and how much we
Mhm.
would have learned, even as a parent, even if you don't think your child understands,
Uh-huh.
you think they're not listening, read them age appropriate books, let them watch age appropriate things on TV, talk to them like they are their actual chronological age. There is no harm in doing that. There
Right.
is harm in not doing it.
Right.
Uh-huh.
That if I could give you one piece of advice over this whole conversation, that would be it.
Yep. And when we spoke a few months back, that is like the one of the biggest things that I took away from it. And I mean, now even we'll just say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then this is what's gonna happen after that. And he may not understand. I don't know if he understands or not, but it gives me some
Uh-huh.
level of comfort to know that like I'm talking to him in a way that I would talk to, any other 2-year old, or if he understands what is going to happen and I'm explaining to him, what's going to happen after that so that he can, kind of maybe remember that just gives me even more comfort too.
Mhm, mhm. And it still works today. Andrew went to the dentist, a couple of weeks ago, and he has to have general anesthesia to have his teeth cleaned, and he's pre-medicated before we leave home to help his anxiety, and he struggles when they put an IV in, and even though he was almost half asleep and out of it, and he was kind of fighting getting the IV in, I said, "Andrew, you are safe.
Mhm.
Okay. Everyone is here to help you. So take a deep breath and try to relax as much as you can. Because that's what you would tell anyone else who was in that
Yep.
situation
Uh-huh.
stressed out. And he was able to calm down enough that they could get the IV in. Before, I would have said, why are you fighting this so hard? I can't, I mean, not necessarily nasty, but
Yeah.
I would definitely be talking about him in front of him. I don't know why he does this. We just got to make it happen. Instead of
Mhm.
talking to him as his own individual person and encouraging others to do the same. You have to advocate for your child. Think about if you were younger and your parents stood up for you in public in front of other people. That makes you feel confident and that someone else has your back. And your kids are watching, that encourages them as they get older to advocate for themselves because
Mm,
in practice, they've seen it modeled. And it
Yep.
is hard and ugly some days, and not everybody gets it.
Yep.
And people tell you that to your face. And it's happened to Andrew and I. And as we walk away, all I say is, we educated someone new today, and whether they choose to or not is not our responsibility.
mm,
Of course.
So,
Yep.
but hearing myself talk, it makes it sound like it's all wonderful and great, and the hard isn't really that hard. And I would be lying to you if I said that's just the way it is all the time.
mm,
There are really hard days, and I've been doing this for 25 years now, and there are really still hard days. As a parent, you get frustrated with your kids. Every parent does, or you get mad at your kid. Everybody does. And that is
Mhm.
no different for our kids. There are days where I just say, I can't do this anymore. And it's really important to remove yourself from that situation,
mm,
just like any other parent. There have been times I've had to go out in the garage because I was so angry at Andrew for intentional ineffective communication on his part because it was not good.
Yeah.
yeah.
That didn't happen that long ago. And there are days you wake up and you think, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. I'm tired,
Yep. Yeah.
weary, don't have any fight in me anymore.
Mm,
And it's okay to feel that way because at the same time, if someone was hurting your kid in a split second, you would be defending.
Of course.
So it's just like being a parent for anyone else. And it's okay to have those feelings. You just can't stay stuck in them. Let yourself feel them and then start again the next day. We say
Yep.
in our house, I'm ready for a new day because the one you're in stinks so bad.
Yep.
It's not anything to be afraid of. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It doesn't mean you don't like your kid. It doesn't mean your kid hates you. It's just life.
Yep.
kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit, one of the things that I struggle a lot with personally, both in practice and sort of philosophically, is trying to separate what Leo is doing that is he can't help because of his condition, and what is him just being a normal 2.5-year-old. Because, like 2.5, toddlers are a lot to deal with. 25-year-olds have some tendencies that are annoying. You know what I mean? So have you been able to, I understand it's impossible in reality, but have you been able to parse what what is those two sets of behaviors at all?
Yes, not perfectly, but a lot
Mhm,
more than we used to be able to. There are certain forms of ineffective communication that Andrew chooses that we wouldn't allow from our other two children, and therefore we don't allow from him. And we tell him that,
mhm,
just like I would tell his brothers.
mhm,
There are some of these forms of communication we have learned. So when he does X, he's either angry or trying to get our attention in a negative way. Now, it's taken a number of years, but then there are other times where he just is like about to crawl out of his skin and needs some sort of sensory input or is anxious and needs to talk about it. But yes, there are definite ways to get our attention that are not appropriate
mhm.
or we don't engage with.
So would that be your advice to other parents to not engage with behavior from your Meth 2C kid that you wouldn't engage with from typical kids?
Or just set the boundary, and once they know that boundary, then you
It's really hard when they're younger because you don't
Right.
know that this knowledge that we have gained has happened over the last 5-ish years
Gotcha.
because Andrew found his voice when he was 13.
Right.
He was just so happy to have his voice that a lot of the typical teenage things that you would see didn't happen then because he was just
Mm,
world had opened up. And so it's just been a shift in timing for us
mm,
seeing some of these things happen. So when they're really young, it's hard to know. And it's just hard to know. I would give your kid some grace at when they're young. You know your kid better than anyone else. And so if you start to see a pattern,
Yep.
I would suggest handling it like you would any other child.
Mm.
But just be cautious about that, because if they
Right.
have no other way to communicate, they might really be needing to tell you something.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. How does Andrew sleep?
Mm, Not great. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Yeah.
Has improved. First and foremost, when your child wakes up screaming in the middle of the night, especially when they're young, or if they can't communicate, accept that they are likely having a nightmare, even if you think they're too old for it, and make sure to comfort them. Because Andrew continues to have nightmares about things that have happened to him in the past, and we didn't understand that for a long time. So that just throwing that out there first and foremost.
Mm.
Andrew slept great when he was really young, until about 18 months old. I mean, he could sleep through a tornado, literally, but then not so much. And he would be awake for long periods of time at night. We kept him in a crib as long as we could because he was safe there. Because again, he didn't start walking until he was older. And pediatricians will disagree about that, but if your child can't pull themselves up, they're not going to fall out of their crib. And we had a mattress on the floor for a long time because we were afraid he was going to fall out of a bed once he got out of the crib. That was helpful. Lots of nights where he didn't sleep, lots of nights. And then usually the problem was keeping him up all of the next day so that he would sleep good.
Yeah.
And those, we still have those sometimes. We have not been shy in giving Andrew medication to help him because at one point he had stopped gaining weight, he had stopped growing, he had stopped developing physically because of his lack of rest. It has gotten better with his ability to communicate. He is able to now tell us that he can't go to sleep because he's really worried about something and really angry about something, or he had a horrible nightmare and just like us, really is having trouble going back to sleep.
Mm.
Sleep is really important for your child and for you as a parent.
Of course.
That's why oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. We started melatonin. I don't remember when. He was probably 4. Again, that was a long time ago, so I don't remember. We started clonidine was the first thing that we tried with him, and it worked. It was very helpful for us. We've had to add things over the years. So he takes a fairly hefty mix of medication that would probably put most of us out for several days. But
Yeah.
his rest is really important. Our rest
Sure.
is really important.
Mm.
I wish I could tell you that it's great because I know so many parents are like, "Well, if you tell me they're going to sleep when they turn 7, then I can handle this."
Right.
I don't. There has to be a reason why our kids don't sleep well. I don't know what it is. I'm not an expert about it at all. We've tried sound machines. We've tried essential oils. We've tried music. We've tried TV. We've tried blankets. We've tried,
Mhm.
I do know that it is heavy on the radar of the professionals. When we were in Boston, they
Okay.
had mentioned that somebody asked the question of what's next? Like what's the next big thing? And I don't remember who it was, but they were like sleep. We know sleep is important to you guys. Yeah. So they realized that the sleep is something that is very important to all of us.
Yeah, and as I understand it, one of the primary like sort of drivers of MEF2C is there's a fundamental imbalance of excitatory versus inhibitory neurons in the brain. So if they don't have enough inhibitory neurons and they're not sure whether, because those systems are kind of independent of each other,
Yes.
not sure whether the excitatory system won't turn off or the inhibitory system won't turn on or both. But that would make sense as to why if they can't get their brain to shut down, that would make sense as to why they can't sleep.
That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Something that we've noticed with Andrew is that perseveration that we talked about with his movements before. Mentally and emotionally, he struggles with that as well. So if he's anxious about something, it's really, really, really hard for him to walk away from that.
Mm-hmm.
He just can't seem to let go of that cycle of thought. And that is interesting.
Mhm.
That might have something to do with that also.
Mhm. Does he have any, so since he's no longer like playing with baby toys and things, does he have more, I don't know what the right word is, like more, I guess, age appropriate stems? Like, does he have
Mhm.
fidgets or things that he uses? And does he like to stem, or is it just a necessary thing?
Good questions. He does have more appropriate stems. There are times that he needs to stem.
Mhm.
There's still that need to just cut loose. It can be relaxing for him. He can also get stuck in it, but there are times he's like, I just need to stem. I'm like, go stem. He doesn't really like any of the conventional stem things.
Mhm.
Still, I think because people were giving him so many of those kinds of things when he was younger, he just has this negative attitude towards some of the typical things that you would see, like a bracelet or a chew toy or something like that. So we have old phones that don't work anymore. We've put them in cases. They're non-functioning, but that seems to fill his need, and that is very appropriate age-wise.
Mhm.
Sometimes he has 3 of them in his hand, but it's better than, playing something that lights up. He also does flip through magazines and books. Sometimes he's reading, sometimes he's just stimming. But again, that's a lot more appropriate for his age.
So is he flipping through like adult books that are just
Yes.
like text? So he's just playing with the pages, or he just likes the way the pages look, or
No,
you don't really know?
why he does it, but I know
Gotcha.
that he was looking at a magazine downstairs before I got on this call, and I could tell that he was reading the words.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He comprehends more when he hears it, but that doesn't mean he can't
Mhm.
read.
Right, right, right.
And I could just
Obviously, he has to be able to read to be able to type to begin with. So,
right, right.
yes.
That's a good question. I'll have to ask him, or you can ask him why he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. He used to like with board books when he was younger. He used to flap the pages back and forth
Uh,
all the time, and it may come from that. Still, I don't know.
yeah, I was thinking more of like maybe he just like looking at the pictures as opposed to, but if he's just leafing through like, novels and things like that, then that can't be the case. So,
I think he enjoys things with pictures more, but I know he's looked at books without pictures.
so I know that the spelling to communicate can be controversial. You've mentioned that with the schools.
Mm,
So can you talk a little bit about what's controversial about it and how you were able to navigate that?
sure. So, according to I don't remember the organization. It's basically the American Speech Language Pathology Association.
Mm,
They do not condone spelling, RPMs, prototyping, whatever you want to call it. And they teach that in schools to OTs and speech pathologists. What I can tell you is that, and the reason they do that is because a lot of people assume because I'm supporting Andrew, because of his motor instability and his inability to know exactly where his arm is in space, he needs touch to be able to communicate where he wants to go. Because if I said, Andrew, um, man, go pick up the orange cup, he knows what orange is, he knows where the cup is. He cannot in his body do that.
mhm,
And that's what I earlier when I said he's stuck in a body that doesn't work.
Yeah.
mhm,
So to ask him to touch a series of letters independently, if he can't pick up a cup, how is he going to be able to touch those letters independently? So a lot of people believe that I am moving his hand to spell out certain things. And that is what all the naysayers will find.
mhm,
My question then is, why would I spend hours and hours and hours typing my words with Andrew? Because believe me, it is a time consuming task. Andrew speaks very differently than I do.
mhm.
He uses words that sometimes I don't know. He has different interests than I do. I don't We are very different people and our communication reflects that.
Right, yeah.
Some people say, well, it's just wishful thinking, but I am not the only one he communicates with.
Mhm,
I'm the only one in our house that he communicates with, but I am not the only person he communicates with. So if it's me moving his hand, then everybody's moving their hands with him. There has to be an emotional connection between the communication partner, as they call it, and the person who's communicating. And I can tell you from sitting in IEP meetings with people who disagree with Andrew, they wanted to come over and help him type. So Andrew is very observant, more than most
Mhm.
people, because people who lose a sense or an ability to communicate are picking up everything.
Mhm.
He knows whether or not someone believes that he's typing or not. And he will not type with someone who he knows doesn't believe in him. That is a waste of his time and energy. It's not fair to him. So they're like, well, why can't I just come in and do it? Well, if you don't have a relationship with this person, why would Andrew, for example, trust you enough to be able to know that you aren't going to move his hand?
Yep. That's exactly what I was just thinking.
And again, when I'm stressed, when I'm anxious, when I'm frustrated, he knows it, and our communication sessions are not effective, and the same goes for him. So it is really a partnership. You have to be patient with the person. You have to accept their motor differences. Everybody wants their hand held a little bit differently or their arm held. They need more pressure or less pressure. It's not just you can walk in a room and go, boom, I'm going to type with you.
Mhm.
Sentences all the way. That is questionable. It takes time, it takes trust. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
and when my child is waking up in the middle of the night because he has had a horrible nightmare, when he tells me that and I talk to him and help calm him down and he's able to go back to sleep, that's his communication. If it wasn't
Mhm.
a nightmare and I wasn't able to talk him through it, it wouldn't be effective.
What's it been like? You were just speaking to it, having to navigate both the medical and the education systems to advocate for him to get the resources that he needs, and what would you tell other parents that might be helpful?
That was a loaded question.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to like pull myself back and look at the big picture. Educationally, I would fight with every fiber of your being
Mhm.
to have your child presumed competent,
Mhm.
to have them seen as someone who can understand and should be allowed the right to communicate in whatever way they choose and be included with their classmates. Being in a self contained classroom for Andrew was traumatic for him. He actually had really good friends in that class, but it was so limiting. And again, they asked him for 5 years, "Show me the color yellow." Well, like, I knew that before he walked in the door. And imagine the amount of frustration that went on.
Mhm.
Fight for your child. Not everybody in the school system is bad. We have been blessed with amazing people in the school system.
Yeah.
Not all of them are there with your child's best interests.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So spend time in the classroom during the day. I At every school Andrew's been to, I've said, I just want to come and shadow him for a day. You get to see the parents that will work with your child. You get to see how other people interact with them. I think that's really important. And it sounds silly, but treat the teachers and paras nicely. Bring them in surprise donuts. Find out when their birthday is and just or where they like their coffee from. Because whether or not they have your child's best interest at heart, they will know that you are involved in your child and that you see their job as extremely important because they do have a thankless job. And a lot of parents do nothing but complain.
Mhm.
So even if you're not thrilled with the people, go out of your way to acknowledge what they're doing. And that works a lot better. Get to know the principal, get to know the bus drivers. You don't have to be a squeaky wheel. You can be if you need to, but it's not always as effective. Don't go in like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Medically, we have been very lucky to have doctors that have accepted Andrew's form of communication. And even to the point where when we have new doctors, because I will tell you that Andrew and I still have anxiety when we go to a new doctor because you don't know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
I have said, the doctor said, well, how does Andrew feel about this? I go, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? Not nasty, but, or I'll say, Andrew, you can answer that question.
Mhm.
And I will remind them, please speak directly to him. Sometimes we start with that. Andrew understands everything you're saying. He communicates with this method. So please feel free to speak to Andrew directly.
Mhm.
And sometimes, I mean, like a lot of people, they forget or they just assume, especially if they work with children with disabilities or adults with disabilities a lot, they'll automatically revert to asking the parent. But just keep, Andrew, you can answer that. Andrew, you can answer that. Just keep showing them, educating them. I will say that not everyone gets it, where they'll come over, like a whole bunch of people come over like it's some sort of like sideshow. Come over here. And then you can feel all your feelings inside, but you always look at it as we're educating someone. We are someone. And I've said it to Andrew. Andrew, look at all these people that are here to learn about how you communicate. Why don't you show them?
That's so
And
cool. Yeah.
us, I've gone home crying from appointments from people who have treated Andrew less than what he is. We don't go back to those people. It takes work, but just keep reminding people all the time, whether you're out in the grocery store, whether you're anywhere, because a lot of people just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see kids who are staring at your child, I don't mind the kids. Actually, that's a great teaching opportunity. Because kids, and they sometimes just don't know. It's the adults who I get really frustrated with. But you can still teach them. They don't have to take it, but you can teach them.
I struggle with that, I think, to get outside of the box a little bit. I try to fly under the radar as much as I possibly can, and then I get gifted with a kid that I am going to have to be, voice his opinion and, be a voice for him instead of just trying to fly as far under the radar as possible.
Yeah, I think that's actually been something that's been beneficial for me personally, is I've had to learn to be more assertive as a result of having Leo. My mom she's a special needs preschool teacher. She does an excellent job. But I saw her, and I had some siblings that had IEPs and stuff as well. And if I had a teacher who was doing a good job, she treated them great. She knew a lot of the teachers personally too. But when it was time to not be nice, Trilby wasn't afraid to ruffle some feathers. So, I've had to learn to channel that from her.
Yeah. It's hard when your child is younger. People used to speak directly to Andrew when he was 3, 4, 5, and they wouldn't get a response. And then they'd look at me like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And I didn't handle it as well as I could have. I would I would say, well, he's got some delays, but, like he's our older child is, you know, his name is, her name is, then that opens up the conversation instead of, okay, that was weird.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard at first, but you're also talking to someone who's been doing this for a long time. So I'm not saying it's easy at the beginning.
Right.
Do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. We had the first time we had Leo tested for autism. I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but it came back inconclusive because he couldn't complete the tests, which was it just made me irate. Like, that's the most absurd. I'm getting upset about it now. I gotta calm down. It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. But luckily, we were able to get him assessed with someone else, and they also thought it was absurd. But just you were talking about them looking at Andrew funny. That just made me think of that. Of like, what expectations did you have? You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable what some people think.
Well, and that's something else that uh, we had someone evaluate Andrew at 18 months old. 18 months. We waited for 2 hours in the waiting room, and the doctor only saw him for 15 minutes. This gentleman, I still remember his name, told us in that 15 minutes that we needed to think about institutionalizing Andrew and that he would forever be in a group home setting, and that was the best we could hope for. And I remember feeling livid after leaving.
Yeah.
Because he's 18 years old. But if we had accepted that, Andrew wouldn't be the person that he is now.
Of course.
Again, you know your kid best.
Mm-hmm.
Just assume that they're in there as they really are.
Yep.
The other thing I would do, and Andrew has called me on this, he's very good at calling me on things. It's not appropriate when your kid's young, okay, but when they get to be 5, 6, 7 or older, you need to be careful about what you say about their personal habits or things that are embarrassing to you. Wouldn't do that about a typically developing 6 or 7-year-old saying, well, he's still in diapers and I don't know what we're going to do about that. I did that. And because I didn't know. I know now. And you would never say that about a man who's 25 or a teenager who's 15. You need to protect their privacy, including what you put online.
Mhm.
I feel very strongly about people putting videos up of their children without their permission.
Mhm.
That is a huge violation of privacy. And if you wouldn't do it for a typically developing person of that age, then you should never, ever do that for your child with disabilities. And that may make some people upset because I know that's happened on the Facebook page, but I have someone living in my house who has a right to that privacy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and you don't know, like my experiences with teenagers, kids that are a little older, they get embarrassed about the most silly, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
funny things like a teenager, oh, I can't wear these shoes, so it'll embarrass me at school. So like you don't even know what they might have an objection to.
Mm.
And that's something I hadn't considered until you said that, but that completely makes sense.
Mhm. I mean, it's okay to talk at the playgroup about your 4-year-old and whether or not they're potty trained, but I caution strongly
Mhm.
listening all the time.
Mhm.
I have been in those shoes, and I'm now in the other set of shoes.
Yeah.
That is a failure on my part as a parent prior to knowing what I know now.
Of course.
Sorry, that's my little soapbox.
That's all right.
Oh, that's great.
You've already spoke to this a good bit, but what are some of the more difficult aspects of parenting someone with MEF2C that people might not think of?
It's isolating.
Oh. Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's why groups like this are important.
Mhm.
Meetings in person are important because having, and even Andrew will say it's isolating.
Mhm.
Having a disability that is very atypical of some of the more, I hate to call them mainstream disabilities, is difficult. And it's, as of right now, a lifelong thing.
Mhm.
The future is another one, thinking about the future. Some of you have really young kids, and so I wouldn't spend a lot of time on that currently if your kids are real young, because that time will come. But it does come eventually. That is something that both Sean and I and Andrew are talking about a lot now. And what is that going to look like? And who's going to care for him after we aren't able to? Having those conversations, we didn't for a long time, and something came up within the last few months that sort of made us talk about it. And those were hard weeks. And we still don't have all the answers, but that is something I think every parent worries about when they have someone with disabilities. But it can also be the most amazing thing. Andrew is hard and he knows it, but he has grown me as a human in ways I never could have thought I could have handled. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
your guys as parents and all the parents listening are strong people and you have value, and never underestimate the importance of what you do every single day, whether it's feeding your child for the millionth time, whether it's changing their diaper, whether it's putting their clothes on, whether it's getting them out in the community. Every single thing you do matters and it's important. So don't shortchange yourself.
Love that.
Yeah, we did an interview with a family from Canada. Their name was Becky and Brandon. And we were talking about this, and Brandon mentioned, well, some people have told me maybe it's a blessing in disguise, and you'll never know, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are, you'll never know if there was a reason why you were given this child, if there is a reason at all. But
Mhm.
if you believe that there's a reason and you believe that it's a blessing, then it is. So that's something we talked about last week, but I think it bears repeating, and I'll repeat it every chance I get until
It's not
I
hard,
can't. Yeah.
but it's one of the most important parts of my being.
How does it affect your other kids?
They are fiercely protective of Andrew in public, fiercely protective.
Mhm, mhm,
And we do our best with that. But depending on the ages of your children, that will be easier to see at certain times.
mm,
We weren't sure if we were going to have any more kids, and then we got Daniel. I know that's a really tough thing to talk through and work through. At the time, we didn't know Andrew's diagnosis, so really didn't know what we were
Mm.
Our other two children have been vitally important to the three of us, Andrew, Sean, and myself. They have brought different joy that we haven't had with Andrew, that just wasn't possible. It's made them more sympathetic towards other people with disabilities. It's made them very protective. There are times they are really, really frustrated with him.
Mm.
And it depends on ages,
Yeah.
You're 15, you know, you look at him the wrong way and it's embarrassing and I can't believe you did that. So it ebbs and flows, I would say.
Mm.
But I'm so glad we had other kids. Our life would be very different without it. And I don't think we wouldn't know what we were missing, but it wouldn't be nearly as full as it is.
Do the other two have sort of a, I guess it's not typical, but a typical relationship with Andrew as far as like brothers sort of, you know?
Yes. They argue, they joke with each other. Yes.
That's good.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. Good.
Siblings ever get along all the time.
Yeah.
No, and that's
Me.
another thing I was gonna say, like, especially you said so Andrew's 25 and Daniel's 21. Like, I have a brother who's 7 years younger than me, I think, and there's just a certain age ranges, like, 21 and 25 are in the next couple years, they're gonna become best buddies. Like, my brother's 19, and he's still a little, mischievous, but,
Mhm.
like, we can hang out now and do stuff without me wanting to pull my hair out, and it's great. So, a lot of those things resolve themselves on their own in my
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
So, we mentioned the Facebook group. Has there been any other sort of social, like, support systems that you've found valuable?
I have just through life met other families that have children with disabilities.
Mm.
And it may not be the same, but there is still this understanding. There's this common thing. Some of them are in person, some of them are online. And that has been really valuable. It's hard when you're first starting out, when your kids are really young and you're just trying to figure out, like, between therapy and doctor's appointments and all this, like which end is up. It does calm down. Going to events where other families have disabilities is the best way to start that community. And, I know someone who has a child with Downs, or someone who has a hearing disability, or someone else who has autism. And it doesn't matter when the rubber meets the road, it doesn't matter what the disability is that your kids have,
Mhm.
they get it.
Yep.
And so just going to Special Olympics, going to disability fairs, going online, any of those things help you form your community. And that's really important. I think the Facebook page is extremely valuable because it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
my child is doing this or whatever. And with Andrew being older, hopefully I can help some of the younger families say, it's not going to be like this forever, or try these things or whatever, because we didn't have any of that. Those of us with older kids with MEF2C didn't had nothing. And what I would have done to have someone with even just the tiniest bit of knowledge. If you're on the Facebook page and there's someone who you tend to gravitate towards, or you really can relate to their posts, reach out to them personally and say, hey, kind of like you did, hey, like, this sounds really familiar, or where do you live, or anything, something. It's really, really important. And it's hard at the beginning, but it does come.
Okay, we're gonna head towards wrapping this up here. Before we do that, what are your hopes for Andrew's future?
I'm trying to distinguish between his hopes and my hopes.
Mm.
'Cause I
Well,
know what his hopes are. So
Right, right.
I hope that he always feels safe. I hope that he finds his purpose in life. I know his purpose, but I hope that he finds his purpose in life. I hope that he is able to surround himself with friends, and I hope that he continues to educate other people about, because he has a very unique perspective. I hope he continues to educate people about what it can be like to live with a disability and what it doesn't have to be like to live with a
Mm.
disability.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners? Anything we didn't touch on or advice you'd like to give? Anything like that?
Treat your child age appropriate. age appropriately. Number one, respect their privacy and let them share what they feel comfortable sharing. Love your child more than anything else and be patient with yourself. Mm. And give your child and yourself lots of grace, and it will be okay. It's going to be okay.
All right, Susan. Well, thank you. I just want to say personally that you and Andrew, this is our first time speaking, but even before this, you've been tremendously influential to us. Just you're both a testament to what's possible with MEF2C and disabilities in general. And we will be reaching out to Andrew.
Okay.
You know, uh, Again, thank you so much for your time and all your knowledge. All our listeners can contact us on the Facebook page, or our email is mef2cast@gmail.com. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Bye bye.